Hello, just Corey jumping in before the show to let you know that we are going to VidCon London. That's right, on Sunday the 23rd of February you can catch us at 10:45am in the ICC Capital Suite Room 17. So if you're going to VidCon London, come and enjoy the show, and if you're not, cry. This episode is brought to you by our wonderful patrons over at Patreon who decided the episode topic for this week in our monthly Patreon vote. If you'd like to choose topics, get shouted out in an episode, or have access to extra content and monthly bonus episodes, then head over to patreon.com/SCI GUYS and support the podcast.
You should do that.
You should.
Yeah.
You can't talk yet. No one knows you're here.
Oh, no one told me this.
Shall we start the show? Hello and welcome to the SCI GUYS, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jamp, and not Luke Cutford.
NOAHFINCE.
This week, we'll be talking about fossil feuds and a dinosaur rush.
Fossil what?
Feuds.
But they're dead. How are they going to feud?
In the past.
Here's a tip. The fossils are not feuding. There is a feud over fossils. So, back in the 1800s, there were two men who did not like each other very much.
There were a bit more than two. A few more than two. That's it, them two.
Of all the
Adam
men...
and Steve.
Of all the men, there were two who did not like each other very much, but they did like bones. And they got into a big fight.
Adam and Steve.
Big fight over bones. This is the Bone Wars, and I'm going to be telling you about it right now. Well, not right now, because right now I'm going to be telling you about dinosaurs. Do you guys know what a dinosaur is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me what a dinosaur is.
Big boy, dead. Lots of
Big boy,
bones.
dead.
Could have had feathers, but not quite sure.
You're very good at describing things, but very bad at describing dinosaurs.
Big creatures that lived a long time ago. We think they're lizards, but they could be anything.
They eat, like, little dinosaurs sometimes, but sometimes only leaves.
Sometimes.
I miss Luke.
That's a treat.
Why? What have I done wrong?
Luke will be like, well, that's actually speculated across.
Because usually Luke gives like a decent answer, and right now I've got two.
Oh,
Whatever those were. What's a dinosaur? They eat little dinosaurs sometimes.
Tell us, Corey.
Nothing I said was wrong.
Nothing you said was right.
So dinosaurs are a group of reptiles that dominated the land over 140 million. For over 140 million years, more than 160 million years in some parts of the world.
How long have we been alive?
You've been alive for about 20 years.
No, as in humans.
I don't know. I didn't look that up. I didn't think you'd ask that.
Less than dinosaurs,
like
probably.
Yeah, less than dinosaurs.
100,000 years?
Yeah.
What's the Bible say it is? Like,
2,000.
That's Jesus.
Yeah.
4,000.
Okay.
4 or 5,000.
Yeah. But the moon is older than that.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of things.
Where is the
most
relevance
things,
of the moon?
Most things are older than that.
Well, it's in space.
Because I remember that the moon was like 6 billion years old, and then I thought it was like 6,000. But it wasn't. It's like 6 billion. Anyway,
Yeah.
things are old. Okay, so one of the many reasons that dinosaurs were very good is because they had straight back legs, and they were like perpendicular to their bodies. This is just...
That's something that makes something good.
Objectively good.
Well, yes, because they use less energy to move, less energy than other reptiles to move. You know how like crocodiles and lizards they go like this. This is an audio format. I'm sticking my arms out to my sides and putting my hands like...
Oh,
And they kind of
I get
they
it.
kind of like shimmy forward. Don't they?
Yeah, like they're kind of like...
They're cruel.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
crawling all the time.
But it's a funny crawl because they
Yeah,
get it on.
it takes a lot of energy. And standing with straight legs takes a lot less energy, which is why dinosaurs were pretty good. They weren't too bad.
Pretty good at being dinosaurs.
Then why are they dead?
Well,
It might have been to do with
Kind
the big asteroid that hit Earth. I don't think your legs can protect you from that.
Yeah, I mean, good legs is not going to
Wait,
protect you from
everyone,
a cataclysmic
Put your
event.
legs up, catch the asteroid.
I would simply catch the asteroid.
If I was a dinosaur.
So many dinosaur species became extinct around 66 million years ago, but a group of living dinosaurs are still with us today.
Are these boomers? What are you talking about? Chickens? Birds?
Chickens,
Birds.
birds.
Birds are dinosaurs.
Birds are dinosaurs.
Crocodiles are dinosaurs.
They're not dinosaurs.
crocodiles
I
are
just
birds?
described exactly why a crocodile is not a dinosaur.
But they were alive when the dinosaurs were alive, therefore they're dinosaurs.
There must have been some dinosaurs
right.
that crawled.
Your parents were alive when your grandparents were alive. Does that mean your parents are your grandparents? No. They're just alive at the same time.
Up for debate.
So not everything that was alive was a dinosaur, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Understandable.
All thumbs are fingers, but not all
I
fingers are
understand.
thumbs.
There were mammals back then. What?
I don't know what happened 66 million years ago.
Clearly
God,
not.
you've got a forgetful memory.
So dinosaurs are archosaurs, which is a larger group of reptiles that first appeared about 251 million years ago, near the start of the Triassic period. Some other non-dinosaur reptiles are also archosaurs, including pterosaurs, which are the flying ones. The ones that you think are pterodactyl. You know a pterodactyl?
Pterodactyls,
Yeah, that's not a thing. It's a pterosaur.
Why can't it be a
Pterosaur.
pterodactyl?
It's
Where
just
do we get dactyl from?
dactyl means finger.
Words are
It
just
means
words.
finger.
I'm pretty sure dactyl means finger. Polydactyly
Flying
is
Flying
finger.
finger.
Flying finger.
yeah,
Cool.
They
Well,
have fingers? Oh, they grabbed things, didn't they?
because their wings are their. It's like bats, isn't it?
Yeah, their wings are their arms.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I assume that's where it comes from.
That's the difference
Sorry.
between a pterodactyl and a dragon.
I started imagining
It's
a
not
flying finger.
because that's a wyvern, which is a type of dragon.
a giant flying finger.
Dragons exist.
What? No, they don't.
Komodo dragon.
Jesus Christ. Also lizards, by the way. It's obvious. Don't know why I said that.
Not that time.
You're telling me they're not actually dragons?
Dragons are lizards. So modern crocodiles are also archosaurs.
The same thing that
told-
dinosaurs are.
It's
I
the
told
bigger
you.
group that dinosaurs are in.
I told you crocodiles are saws.
Swords.
They're not. Well,
Saws.
I mean, okay, right. Moving on. So a lot of reptiles, like that, like pterosaurs and crocodiles, are often incorrectly called dinosaurs, but they're not. They're not dinosaurs. Don't call them that because that's not what they are.
Dinosaur's just easier to say, isn't it? That's why people say it.
Then crocodile. Yes, I suppose it's got.
That's
Oh,
not
then
syllables.
archosaur. Yeah, that sounds like
No
science
one's going to know
fiction.
what an archosaur is
We're like,
anyway.
well,
Well,
hell is
that's
that?
what we're here for, to teach them what it is. So there's also marine reptiles such as ichthyosaurs. Can you put it on screen? I'll send you the
Sure.
Ich-
No, don't
bet
send it
you
to
I
me.
can
I want to try
pronounce
spell it. I want to try spell it.
plesiosaurs and mosasaurs. Those are also not dinosaurs. And yes, go.
Plesiosaurs.
Yes.
I had a Pleo. I had a little robot dinosaur when I was like 10 for Christmas. They were called Pleos.
Oh, good.
What's a Pleo?
A plesiosaur is a not dinosaur that lives in the water.
It's not a dinosaur.
So what they call my dinosaur?
It's a
Pleo?
water dinosaur.
We didn't swim.
It's not a dinosaur. So the reason that you can tell none of these are dinosaurs is because they don't have the upright legs that dinosaurs have.
So that's literally just what being a
Right.
dinosaur is. It's just having upright legs.
Well, no, it's a lot of other things too. but-
Well, I know, but that
Just 'cause
differentiates them
just-
and
just dino,
crocodiles.
as
just
far
mean
as lizards,
upright.
yeah, as far as lizards go, they've got upright legs. Okay.
Wow.
Well, as far as reptiles go, they're reptiles with upright legs that lived a long time ago, basically. Oh, and birds.
And birds
And birds.
have upright legs as well.
Yeah.
Just they're reptile birds.
Yeah.
Have you seen those chickens that sometimes grow teeth? Chickens sometimes grow teeth.
Sometimes when they feel like
But-
as a treat.
On occasion.
No, through like some kind of genetic anomaly, much like the one that created.
This one.
This is the part where Corey makes fun of Noah.
Please
for
come onto our
laughs.
podcast so we can bully you.
Yeah.
So, what makes a dinosaur a dinosaur? Like I said, they've got an upright stance with legs perpendicular to their body. That's the main feature. Like other reptiles, they lay eggs. So, if you don't lay eggs, you're probably not a dinosaur.
They're just a mixed bag, aren't they? Of everything.
Eggs and legs.
Oh, I guess both
Eggs
birds,
and legs.
birds and reptiles both lay
I got
eggs.
eggs and legs.
Yeah, you
Are
do.
you a dinosaur?
What makes me not a dinosaur?
Are you a reptile?
Wow.
Can't disclose that.
Ask Alex Jones.
So, Noah, do you also have a skull with a hole between the eye socket and nostril?
I've not seen my skull.
Okay,
I don't know what's going on under my
Give
skin.
me your skull.
right, true. That's actually something that all archosaurs have. So, crocodiles will have that too. They've got a hole between the eye socket and nostril.
For why?
Oh, between the... Oh.
Yeah, they just do.
It's like extra nose.
And also, dinosaurs had two holes behind the eye socket, which big, strong jaw muscles would go through those holes to attach directly to the top of the skull, which gave them really strong biting force.
Similar to rats, in when they move their jaw too much, their eyes start bulging.
But Okay, sure.
I'm more scared of a dinosaur.
Their joint. Their jaws are joined to their eyes. That's why they
It does
boggle.
also include eyes and jaws.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Just trying to add something to the conversation. Well, you'll tell me all about dinosaurs. I'll tell you all about
To
rats.
be fair,
It's not
you've been like, come on this dinosaur podcast, please. Bring your dinosaur expertise.
Yeah, that's
now."
why I don't fucking know anything about dinosaurs.
This is not a two-way street. I tell you the facts, and you just sit and make
Rats.
jokes.
All right, you just talk and we'll say nothing.
No, no.
No, we make jokes. They don't have
Yeah.
to be relevant.
Okay. This is so
Please
easy.
make them relevant.
Okay, I'll try and make them relevant.
Knock.
Who's there?
I didn't come that far. I didn't.
What do you call a blind dinosaur?
I don't know.
Blindosaur.
Do you think he saw us?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So, you know what dinosaurs are now?
Yeah.
You don't sound convinced, but I'm going to move on anyway. Do you know what a fossil is?
It's an old dead imprint of a dinosaur.
It's like remains that have been. It's remains that have been kept nice and tidy.
Doesn't have to be a dinosaur, but they often are.
I've seen a fish.
This is too chaotic for me.
It's something it's preserved, right? Preserved dead animal.
You know
things.
what's
No, because the fossil isn't actually the thing, is it?
Well, it is. Okay,
It
right.
is, but it isn't.
Both of you are kind of. The thing is, you're hitting on the points,
Right.
but you
Just
could
not right.
you could equally be describing some chicken in a Tupperware. Couldn't
Yeah,
you?
true.
Yeah.
It's preserved over several years. Still could be chicken.
Describing a paper mache.
isn't it?
So a fossil is physical evidence of a prehistoric plant or animal.
Plant. Oh, of course. Yeah. I didn't think
Plants
about that.
Plants,
Existed
you're not
too.
allowed fossils.
No. I just thought it would be like, usually it's like bones, isn't it?
Well,
It's like, where are the plant's bones? What's it got fossilized? It's just got plant.
so fossils could. So fossils could be preserved remains or other traces, such as marks they left on the ground. So you're right in saying that it could be a trace, but it can be
Yeah.
bones and it can be plants.
Can it be footprints?
Yes, that's a trace that one leaves in the ground, is it not?
Yes.
So yes, it can be footprints.
Crazy.
So do you know how? I'm not even going to ask you. I know you don't know how fossils form, but do you want to give it a try?
I learned about it once.
Well, you're about to learn about it
It's
again.
layers of, it's not sedimentary, it's layers of something layering on top.
Lasagna.
I was going to say
Paper mache.
what? I was going to say rock.
Yeah.
Sedimentary rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was scared of saying that, and you'd be like, "Oh, a big word, sedimentary. It's actually wrong." So I was like, "I just
think
won't
you
say
know about
anything.
dinosaurs, do
Yeah,
you?
you think you know about dinosaurs?
Well, it's not necessarily wrong. You got a little bit of it there. You're pretty close.
It could be rock, but I'm guessing it could also be other things.
So I'll tell you how I'll tell you how fossils form.
Rock and other sorts.
So nearly all fossils we find, about 99% of them, are from marine animals and like shellfish and sharks. And it's basically because most things that die rot away completely, leaving nothing behind, but fossils don't. And effectively, in the water, they get buried under sand, and their decomposition slows down because there's not much oxygen there, and that gives it enough time for fossilization to occur.
We could fossilize a human if we put them in the ocean.
You
know
don't
what?
need to
We
put them
In
in
the sand.
You don't need to put them in the ocean. I'm about to tell you why, because things can also fossilize on land. Most of the fossils we find from land animals are from animals that are living near to a lake or river. So Dr. David Button, a dinosaur researcher at the museum,
The museum.
Imagine
just
being
says the museum.
Imagine studying something as cool as dinosaurs and being called Dr. Button.
Yeah, Dr. Button, dinosaur research.
Dr. Button is here to inspect the fossil.
Imagine getting a PhD in dinosaurs. That's great.
Yeah.
I love
To
that
be fair, that's pretty cool.
because it's mostly guesswork, isn't it? Like no one
You don't
knows.
have to be right. It's like being a weather person. You don't actually have to be right.
I mean, if you're
That's
right,
true, actually.
I mean, if you're
Yeah.
right most of the time, people just assume that you're.
People, yeah.
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 And also,
you could guess, to be honest.
That's how anything
Be a
works.
meteorologist by guessing.
Wow.
yeah, you could be. So, Dr. David Button, a dinosaur researcher at the museum, says most of the dinosaur fossils we find are from animals that were living near to a lake or river, and some died shortly before the area flooded and covered their remains in mud and silt. Others were washed into the river by heavy rain. What's so funny?
I just think it's funny. It's
Yeah.
like all these dead animals just being discarded by mud and like.
We don't know much about dinosaurs that lived in jungle or mountain environments because they're not as likely to form fossils. So, I'll tell you about the main way that fossils form. So that's petrification, which is probably the way that you know most.
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
The
Actually.
spell, innit?
Sorry?
But are you thinking of Harry Potter, where Mrs. Norris gets
What's she say?
petrified?
Right.
Petrified. How's, what's the
Petrificus
spell?
totalis.
Petri-
That
oh,
one,
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
Petrified? No, that's
Petrified.
what's that
That's
mean?
the basilisk.
Petrified, well, in this case, it means... In this, it basically turns to rock. That's what petrified
What's
means.
the actual way to describe it?
I'm about to give you what happened.
Okay, well, you just like basically turns into rock. And I might need more information.
It turns into rock.
Wow.
So at the end of the really long explanation, if we don't get it, we can be like,
Turns into
I
rock.
get it. It turns into rock.
Yeah, I hope you're taking all this in because there is a quiz at the end.
There
of
is a
this.
quiz at the end.
Yeah, you've not listened to recent episodes. There's a quiz now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, good. So basically, an animal like a dinosaur would go under fossilization by petrification. This is the way that it would happen. One, the animal dies. It's a key part. Animal dies.
Oh.
Yeah. Two, the soft.
Or they lie really still.
I feel like
Isn't it the rotting that?
yeah, I feel like you'd have to die for this to work. You could be killed, and then well, no, you have to be dead for it to work.
If you're killed, you're dead.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to be a smart
Well,
aleck.
To be honest, fossilization will kill you. So you can be alive at the start if you want, but you will definitely not be alive at the end.
Okay. At what point does it become a fossil?
When it's fossilized. I'm trying to get. Let me finish. So number one, the animal dies. Step two, the soft parts of the animal's body, like the skin and muscles, start to rot away, and some scavengers might come and eat the remains if they want. Yep, that's right. Number three, before the body disappears completely, it's buried by sediment. There you go. Usually mud, sand, or silt, and often at this point only bones and teeth remain. Don't know why it says bones and teeth. Teeth are bones.
Teeth are bones, but small ones in your mouth.
I think they
And
are.
we can see them.
I think they are.
That's
No,
right.
I was gonna say I think toe bones are smaller, but
Well, ear bones are smaller, actually.
ear bone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have an ear bone.
You've got 3 bones in your ear.
Oh, it's just cartilage.
Ear bone.
Do you mean
No,
his ear is in the
inner-
inside
in
of
the
it?
inside of your ear?
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't count. That's in your head.
That's your ear.
This is the ear.
That's the pinna.
Can't see it.
That's a part of the. Look, I'm not gonna get into that. I'll tell you about it later.
These are the real bone wars, right? here. No, it's part of your head.
Everything that's inside is just the head.
Oh my god!
Science.
You've really brought this podcast just down a level. So before the body, like I said, before the body disappears, only teeth and bones remain effectively. And then many more layers of sediment build up on top. It puts a lot of weight and pressure onto the layers below, which squashes them, and it eventually turns into
Dinosaur. Rock.
sedimentary rock. You said it before. It's sedimentary rock.
I know. I was trying to find a smart answer, but you just put me on the spot. I was like,
So okay. While this is happening, the layers are turning to sedimentary rock. Water can seep into the bones and teeth, turning them into stone as it leaves behind minerals. So it literally does turn to stone.
the bone turns to
Very
stone.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bone to stone. So this process can take thousands or even millions of years. So you can be alive at the start, but you will definitely not be alive at
Probably
the end.
dead by the end.
You got to be rotting as well. So I mean, realistically,
True.
How old is the oldest tree? You think the oldest tree could be fossilized?
That come from?
No, because it would
Plants
have,
can be fossilized.
yeah, but
Oh, I guess, yeah. They have to be under the earth. Though.
right. Look, here's the thing.
It would.
Yeah, it'd have to be crushed by layers and layers of rock.
I think
so,
it needs sun.
That's true.
That's true. I think the tree would be dead.
I wish you were playing dumb as well. This is just
How old is the oldest tree?
I just have a lot of questions.
I am so glad I was not your primary school teacher. You would have been the most annoying.
Well, if I don't ask these questions, I'll be confused.
So tree fossils, there you go, you've been talking about those. Tree fossils, also known as petrified wood, form in exactly the same way. This is why you can count the growth rings on tree fossils and figure out how old they were when they died.
Oh.
Do you know how ring counting works with trees?
Well, I don't. I know that you can count the rings.
Yeah.
I
One ring
don't
for
know.
every 5 years?
I don't know how many ring
It's for
equals
every year.
what age. It is
Every
every year.
365 days.
Is it actually every year?
I'm pretty sure. Well, okay, so here's the thing.
I thought that was too simple.
Yeah.
I was going to say a year, and then I was like, I'm going to get bullied if I say this.
Yeah.
No,
That's why I said
I
5.
I can't bully you because there are 2 of you and 1 of me.
Yeah, true.
And realistically, you'll team up to, bully me. Anyway, so tree rings work effectively, but this is completely off topic. But tree rings work because every year the tree grows and it goes through cycles of growth where it grows a lot and then it grows slightly. It like grows at a slower rate.
It's like
So
tree
you end
stretch
up-
marks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, kind of, except you've got a really dense part and then a more sparse part, then a dense part, then a more sparse part, and it grows out and you can see the rings.
Interesting.
Does it
a good
depend on
reason.
like how healthy the tree is, though?
Yeah, it can, but it's mostly down to like the seasons.
Ah,
Yeah, so
I
that's
take it grows slower in winter.
yeah, I guess
There you go.
probably.
Oh, I'm smart.
I'm not a tree scientist. I don't know.
I have a place on this podcast.
Producer.
Editor.
So there's also mold and cast fossils. Sometimes groundwater dissolves into the buried bone or shell, leaving behind a bone or shell-shaped hole or imprint in the sediment. And this is a natural mold, and that's effectively how that fossil forms. So if the water is rich in minerals, and it fills that space, then crystals form and create a fossil in the shape of the original bone or shell, and that's called a cast fossil. Or sediment can fill the mold and form a cast fossil.
oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's quite cool, isn't it? Yeah. So, like, sometimes when we're looking at fossils, we're not even looking at a fossilized thing. We're looking at, like,
Yeah.
an imprint of a fossilized thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Or a cast of an imprint of a fossilized thing.
We were both correct.
Yeah, but not really.
No.
I think we got the word right.
you had a lot of the right words. You were in the right area, the headspace, but it just didn't come together.
No.
So that's the most common way you find marine animals and shells as fossils, as cast or mold fossils.
I think that's what I was thinking of when I thought of a fossil.
Yeah, I mean, most people. Well, see, that's the thing. What do you think of when you think of fossils?
Dinosaurs.
I think of that classic shell shape in the rock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually,
Yeah.
we've got a big one of them at home.
See, I think
Yeah.
of Pokemon. I think of Pokemon fossils. I think of Dome and Helix.
Oh, yeah.
That's because you're a bit of a nerd.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
The one that does a science podcast where he
Is
talks
he
about
a nerd?
science? Wow! Amazing insight.
I mean, not all scientists do Pokemon, do they?
No, but
Bit of a
most of them probably,
generalisation.
yeah.
Most, yeah. At
Past
least
20 years,
80%.
yeah. So trace fossils like footprints form in a similar way. The footprint forms a natural mold, and sediment then fills it, forming a cast. So it's the same kind of thing. So that's how you get big dino footprints.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
You're telling me it's not the actual dinosaur's foot. It's just a footprint.
Yes, well, it's a footprint. I did just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened. I repeated to you what you said to me. Just want you to know I'm paying attention.
Such a confrontational way.
I think you've found it's a footprint.
So now to the Bone Wars. I'll let you know who both of the parties in the Bone Wars were. There were just two people. It was Othniel. Othniel. Didn't look this up beforehand.
How's that
Othniel
spelled?
Charles Marsh. Othniel.
Othniel.
Well, no, because Neil would be it doesn't matter. Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. Those are two guys that did not like each other very much.
Oh.
So I will tell you who they are. Othniel Charles Marsh was the nephew of multimillionaire George Peabody, who was
Oh, I recognise that name.
yeah, Peabody, like Peabody and Sherman. Or
That's
the
where
Peabody
I
Museum.
recognise it from.
Yeah, a cartoon.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Is it the same one? No?
Well, no, because in that Peabody's a dog.
Yeah. Don't judge.
So he was the nephew of multimillionaire George Peabody and was a University of Yale graduate. So he persuaded his uncle to finance the Peabody Museum at Yale, which he then became the head of, and it just supported his work. So he got his rich
nice.
uncle to buy him a museum.
Rich people doing rich things.
Well, that's the thing. Othniel Charles Marsh was actually not very rich himself. He came from an otherwise quite poor family, were it not for his super rich multimillionaire uncle. Don't know how that one works out.
Can't feel that bad for him then, really, can you?
Yeah, look, he's the underdog. He's the underdog in this one, okay? In that he was poorest at the start. The other guy is Edward Drinker Cope, who grew up in a Quaker in Philadelphia. He was a child prodigy who, by age 18, had published his first scientific paper.
Such a flex, isn't it?
Yeah,
What
I mean,
does that mean, though, really?
he wrote a scientific paper and published it. I mean, so he could have done a study or done a review, and then he published that in a journal.
I did a study.
You didn't, though.
I did.
Not to the level of like.
I don't think it.
I don't think it would have got
quite the same.
I don't think it's quite nature level. You know, you're not getting into the Lancet anytime soon. Yeah, so he was quite smart, but he was also quite wealthy, and he later inherited a small fortune that allowed him to pursue his studies. So basically, the story here is two guys who are rich by completely different means, just get really, really mad at each other and start trying to take dinosaurs from each other.
To make more money.
No.
Oh, just to
have a dinosaur.
I
Okay,
was like, what's the motive?
One,
no,
because
just they hate each other.
Because they studied dinosaurs, and two,
Right.
because they really hated each other. Do you remember Edison and
Fair
do you remember Edison and
The other one.
The other one. Oh, what's his name? The one that I like.
Tesla.
That's it.
What
Edison.
you like? You forgot.
Look, it's because Edison's fault. Tesla's now. Edison and Tesla, they didn't like each other.
No,
These guys are like Edison and Tesla on steroids. Honestly, they really hate each other. So I mean, I'll get into it. So Othniel shards. I'm just gonna call them Marsh and Cope from now on.
Yes, please
So
do.
if you remember, Marsh was the one who had the rich uncle, and Cope was the one who was just rich
He had a small fortune, but where'd he get that from?
from somewhere. But he was just born rich as well.
Sometimes it just be like that.
Starting an OnlyFans or something.
Yes, he started an
Didn't
OnlyFans.
declare it,
Okay,
so I don't
I want to
know.
point out. Marsh was born October 29th in 1831, which is 163 BL, if you're keeping track.
BL.
I am
Before Luke.
before Luke.
Oh, yes.
For our listeners, Luke is not here, but often we measure dates based on when Luke was born.
We have to now
Yeah, we have
because
to.
we are in Luke universe,
That's
even
true.
though he's actually not here.
No, we shouldn't even really be existing because he's not
No,
here.
this podcast just manifests itself without any effort.
Well,
or
he's
work
going to
gone
listen
into
to it later. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
he's just going to go in his phone and then manifest it just by clicking on podcast.
That's exactly. Hey, Luke. How you doing?
Hey, Luke, how you doing?
And Cope, who is the rich one, was born July 28th, 1840, or 154 BL. Good. So this was all in the 1800s.
I thought there was going to be more to it than their birthdays.
Well, no, it's to give you an idea of when this was happening.
When-
Oh, so the rich guy who's always been
In
rich is
BL.
younger.
Yes.
Okay.
By like 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly 9 years. Well, not exactly.
They got the same
I was gonna say
birthday.
to the day.
No.
Wow.
That would've been
I
really
just
good.
said their birthdays. You know they don't have the same birthday.
Don't you think
Oh,
I remember things you say?
It was 13. Never mind. So by 1866, Cope had described his first dinosaur. Don't make fun of it. It's a lot more work than it sounds.
Okay.
I'm going to make fun of it.
The meat-eating I need to start reading these names before I put
really
them in the
do.
thing.
No, they're great because then we can put them in the end of the year.
Great. The meat-eating Laelaps. There's another part. Laelaps aquilungus.
Laelaps aquilungus.
You got it. Well done.
Right. Do scientific names actually need to be that long? Or are they just like, oh, I can say this word and you can't?
It's Latin, isn't it? They take it
Yeah.
from Latin. It's really irritating, actually.
Stupid Latin.
Yeah. Maybe it's Latin. So Laelaps aquilungus. Marsh at this point hadn't described a dinosaur, not once.
Wait, what?
He's a loser.
Cope.
All of what you said
my
just
God.
got forgotten.
So by 1866, Cope had
Yes.
described his first dinosaur.
Oh, described it.
Described it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just got stuck on you trying to pronounce it.
The,
to be
Right.
honest.
Yeah, the Laelaps
Yeah.
longer fungus.
Good enough. And Marsh at that point hadn't described a dinosaur.
He hadn't described it.
Yeah.
Described as in.
Stay
Just-
dinosaur.
Discovered and then described what it is that dinosaur is.
All
and
right.
then named it.
Okay.
Well, named it
So
first.
Marsh is falling behind Cope.
Yes, by one dinosaur.
By one dinosaur. Which one's older again?
Marsh.
Marsh is older. So
He's way behind.
he's
then.
really behind.
Yeah.
He's like 9 years behind.
He's actually 9 years behind.
Despite their future rivalry, they actually had quite an amicable relationship in the beginning. I struggled with that one. They had an amicable relationship in the beginning, so they were quite friendly with each other.
What changed?
Well,
Everything changed.
when the Fire Nation attacked, I forced Noah to watch like the entire first season of Avatar, but
So good.
I wouldn't let him skip the intro, and every single
No.
time I would say the entire intro
No,
as it
it's
played.
one of those shows where you can't skip the intro. It's like Death Note. All it.
But I just think you're
One of
doing
those
it
shows, you
to
know?
be impressive. But
No,
I'm not impressed
no,
by
I'm
the
doing
fourth
it too.
time.
I'm doing it because I'm enjoying myself.
Yes.
I just can't. It's too much.
So they were quite friendly. They didn't leave behind many records of those early encounters, because I don't know why. But
Because they were friendly and there
Because
was
they were
nothing to talk about.
and then they hate
Nothing
each
to
other.
record.
Yeah, exactly. But then they start to hate each other. So
But for why?
I'm about to tell you.
Is it
Would
just
you like
because
to
of that
keep-
one dinosaur?
No.
Okay.
They fell out over a bunch of bones.
I just thought like maybe there was a like he got one dinosaur and then he got two.
Yeah.
And then he got another two. And
Well, look, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So, by 1868, Cope invited Marsh to visit one of their southern New Jersey marl pits that were keeping him well supplied with prehistoric fossils. So, the miners working on the site regularly ran into the remains of creatures that had lived along the coast of New Jersey more than 64 million years ago.
So he didn't actually find them, the miners did.
Well, he knew where they were. It's not about just finding them. Do you think paleontology is just finding things?
Well, you said they found the dinosaurs and then described it.
Well, they just.
I'm not a paleontologist. This is not something that I just know.
I can tell you're not a paleo. It's not just finding it. It's also deciding whether it's a new dinosaur or an old dinosaur and putting the bones
you
together.
just find a bunch of bones. You could be like, is this something we've already found or?
Yeah.
I thought it was more like a Tutankhamun thing where, like, the guy who discovered Tutankhamun didn't actually discover it.
Well, no, because that
Just
was
that little boy.
Yeah, yeah. If you're curious about what we're talking about, King Tut was actually found by a little black boy, who got given like a necklace, and that was it. If you go to the King Tut Museum, actually, what they do is they say this amazing adventurer found King Tut, and all he did was have this little boy who actually found, like, literally the little boy found it.
I think he's a water boy.
When he was the water boy found it when he was going to look for water, and then everyone came and was like, "This is King Tut."
Yeah.
You shush. Look what I found.
The entire museum is just them whitewashing the entire
Yeah, it's
history.
really uncomfortable.
Really funny.
God.
It's really funny.
Like, even my dad was like, okay.
That's just
It's
strange.
like-
Just say the boy found
yeah, I
it.
was like, do you not find this a bit weird? He's like, yeah, colonialism.
they
And I was
almost
like,
they almost say the boy found it. They
Yeah,
all but say
yeah,
it.
so close.
I'm surprised they mentioned the boy.
I mean, I'm surprised they mentioned the boy too. But he got a necklace out of it, so you know.
Was it one
could
of
be
King
worse.
well,
Tut's
you can't
necklaces?
complain.
Probably, yeah.
That was
Probably
probably
got
expensive.
an Egyptian curse on it.
Oh,
Yeah,
poor
true.
guy.
So, at this point, it was 1868. Cope and Marsh were together. They were visiting a marl pit, which is basically where they were like mining this material. So there were turtles and crocodiles and vaguely familiar animals, but there were also little tidbits of dinosaur in there as well. So there were fossils of gigantic sea-going lizards called mosasaurs, which I spoke about earlier, and also other kinds of dinosaur. So Cope didn't actually have to dig himself, like we've said. He was just paying the miners, and they just gave him the best specimens from what they found because they were digging anyway. So
Yeah.
They could have just hid some.
but why?
Maybe they don't like him. I don't know.
They were being
We
given.
don't know, do we?
Yeah, but-
it was in the 1860s.
Is he not paying them?
He's. I literally just said that he's paying them.
He's paying them.
I
Thought
would.
they'd be like,
I would hide it.
I really
if
hate
didn't
our
like the
employer. I'm
guy.
going to hide
This
it.
is why. This is why you'll never be employed. I like that we have replaced Luke, who has never had a job, with
He gives me
Noah,
a bit of money
who has
and
also
expects
never.
me to do work for him. I'm going to steal his fossils.
Well, they were never his fossils, really, were they?
True. Wow. That's profound.
So as I said, Cope was not digging himself. He was a rich gentleman. He was not really up for doing that. So he paid the miners to do it. And Marsh, as I said, was quite ambitious. Was from an otherwise poor family, but he made some money, so he could easily afford to pay the miners as well. So Marsh started this off by bribing the miners to send the fossils to him instead of Cope. So
That's my kind of guy.
Marsh basically was invited by Cope to this dinosaur place where they're finding lots of dinosaurs, and he thinks, I know what I'll do. I'll bribe the miners so that I can get all the dinosaurs.
I want them.
Yeah, so this was the first of many slights and the start of their rivalry, and it only went downhill from there.
Wait, so it was Marsh's fault?
Well, yes and no.
Right, okay.
No being yes, it absolutely was entirely his.
Okay.
It's entirely his fault. See, Marsh also pointed out errors in Cope's 1868 description of the aquatic reptile from Kansas, Elasmosaurus. He put the head on the wrong end, so he thought it was like a snake-like thing with like a really long neck and
It's just its
its
tail.
head. Yeah, no, that was its tail.
Yeah.
He got that wrong, or maybe no. Look, I don't remember which way it was.
Snake.
He got the head on the wrong end, effectively.
Snake with upright legs.
Yeah, so Marsh pointed this out, and he was like, yeah, this guy made a mistake. And then Cope was really embarrassed, so tried to buy all of the copies of the article. But but Marsh kept several of them himself.
God.
And Cope apparently never forgot that insult.
It's got receipts.
Like-
That's embarrassing.
Oh, it gets worse. The level of receipts that one of these guys ends up having at the end is
petty.
ridiculous. Oh, it's incredibly petty. It's like two men with small man syndrome just
And a
having
lot of money.
Yeah, a lot. This is what happens when men have too much money and like too much time, and not enough dinosaur
Such
bones.
fragility goose.
So it continued on. Effectively, they were now trying to race each other to find and describe and name the most dinosaurs, and that's the most important part. Naming a dinosaur first means that name sticks. Whatever it's called first is what it is. So you could find a dinosaur and call it
No
Peter.
rebranding.
Terry.
No rebranding.
No
rebranding.
rebranding allowed, actually.
Right.
That's the main part. And here's the thing, actually. They were quite close friends beforehand, so much so that they named dinosaurs after each other.
Aw.
Yeah.
I think they're in love and they just had a bad breakup.
Maybe.
This is like Magneto and Professor X, you know?
It really is, isn't it?
Used to be...
Do you get that reference?
X-Men.
It's the X, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't watch them, they're bad.
I watched some of them and I don't remember any of it. So
Lucky you.
it's the same
Hopefully
thing.
the MCU ones will be good.
So, at this point, they were trying to find dinosaurs. They were in a race to do it. And Cope was using a quite newly invented telegraph. Telegraph? Telegraph. You know, the thing where you beep, 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 and it sends it.
Oh, the Morse code thing.
Yeah. Beep, 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 beep.
Thank you for that description.
I don't know
You've
what
seen
I
a
just said.
telegraph before?
I've not seen one, no.
Oh, okay.
Beep, 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 beep.
I don't know how many beep, 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 beeps. We could keep it in.
You just said something really bad in Morse code.
I just said SOS.
Unfortunately for Cope, scientific terms don't necessarily translate well over the telegraph. So
Oh.
yeah, they were coming out kind of garbled
Right.
and not necessarily right. They were misspelled, and it was just quite difficult to decipher. So he
Writing
was
is
sending,
hard.
yeah, well, he was sending through names, and on the other end, they were like, I don't really know what this name is. What is it? Is it a mosasaur? I don't know. Anyway, that was an issue. So what would generally happen was he would send through a name and some little descriptions of it, and then later on, once he was done, he would show up and be like, "Hey, I'm sorting this out. This is what it's actually called, and this is what I actually said." So he would technically get the name out first,
Right.
but it wouldn't be right. Whereas Marsh was trying a different technique. He had basically a note of publication dates to a monograph titled "Preliminary Descriptions of New Tertiary Mammals."
What's a monograph?
I don't know.
Okay.
Some
Mr.
old-
Science Man
It's
doesn't
an
even know
old
One
thing.
anything.
page. It's not a science. It's just a thing. It's like let's just say he wrote it down in a journal. I don't know. Don't
got
ask
a
questions
journal.
like that. Don't ask questions like that.
I'd read his diary.
Don't dig too deep.
Look, I mean, to be honest, I studied a lot for this one about dinosaurs and the Bone
Not
Wars.
about the
I did
monograph.
not study the monograph because I did not expect me to be telling you about two men who fought over dinosaur
All right,
bones.
you need to be better prepared.
Only for you to ask about what a bloody monograph is.
Just curious.
So he kept track of when his pamphlets announcing the new fossil names had been distributed, and then he would have the detailed description
Yeah.
afterwards. Whereas establishing the name was important for him. Whereas with Cope,
Right.
he was trying to put through the whole description on Telegraph, including
Mm-hmm.
the name, and it was just getting all garbled, and it
Yeah.
wasn't really working out. And that's the thing. The Telegraphs were Cope's weak point. I've got an example here. Let's take a Loxolophodon.
Yeah.
Right? That's a name for a new creature that he's found.
Yeah.
Right? Now, do you say that it was named when the first misspelled telegraph was sent through, or when it was received,
Oh, right.
or when a first draft of his paper was read, or when the report was received by all of the competitors? At what
Right.
point do you say this is when it was named?
What did they
Yeah.
say?
I mean, look, ultimately, he just stopped using telegraphs because it was
Oh.
too much. It was too complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they effectively
I
it
agree.
didn't really matter. There were a lot of different disputes over who named what first, and different people came out on top each time. They were paying other people to do a lot of their digging for them. And over the course of the period, they were getting different contractors, and some of them would be working for Marsh, but because Marsh didn't pay on time or sometimes at all, he was really bad at paying people on time.
Wow.
Yeah, he would be like, "Oh yeah, I'll pay you at some point next
I'm
month,
not
I
liking
guess."
Marsh.
Yeah. So they would go to Cope every now and then.
Yeah.
But then Marsh still had more people coming in. But they got so competitive to the point that rumors spread they were using dynamite on dig sites once they'd found fossils, and destroying fossils that were too small or not necessarily valuable enough to be taken, so that the other guy had nothing. Apparently, they didn't use dynamite, but they did fill in the dig sites. So when they've
So
actually
just reburied them.
yeah,
Right.
they reburied them and then told everyone that they'd blown the place up, so no one went looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so petty.
It's incredibly petty. And if you think about it, they're stealing each other's men.
Could have actually destroyed them though. I guess that would have been worse.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they were never there. Like Marsh and Cope were never on site. They were paying other people to do it.
Oh yeah, but they could have got other people to destroy it.
Yeah, they did. That's the thing. They got other people to destroy all the bones that they didn't really want.
Yeah.
In fact, they got sent so many, and they were so competitive with each other that there were still unopened boxes of bones for them to inspect by the time they died. Just sitting in their houses. So around about 1873, exactly in 1873, in fact, Cope and Marsh were still hating each other. Bear in mind, this is about 7 years after.
God, they just need to sit down and talk, don't they?
No, I think they would kill each other.
Oh, okay.
They do not like each other. Yeah, so
Well, that would kind of solve the problem.
it
not
would.
think?
One would win,
Yeah. Okay, so
and then the other one can take his bones.
there is kind of a story like that at the end. I'll get to it. So
Okay.
effectively, in 1873, they were still hating each other to the point where the scientific journal, the American Nationalist, which Cope had actually bought at one point as a personal publishing platform, refused to accept any more papers feeding into their kind of their feud.
Right.
Basically, they said to their readers that the controversy between the authors in question has come to a personal one, and because the naturalist is not called upon to devote further space to its consideration, the continuance of this subject will be allowed only in the form of an appendix at the expense of the author. Effectively, they were insulting each other so much in the papers that they sent in. The journal was like, okay, no more of this
Stop that.
unless you're going to pay for it
Quit
in an
it.
appendix. Like keep it out of the scientific paper and put it in an appendix if you want to call them whatever name you want to call them.
That idiot Marsh.
Literally, that's how it was. Like, this idiot Marsh thought that this dinosaur was called a Brachiosaurus. Little did he know, he's an idiot and wrong. They were so awful to each other. Honestly.
Science.
Yeah,
Silly.
it is ridiculous. But I guess nothing was really happening in the 1860s.
I love that this was documented so we can talk about it today.
Yeah.
Just a feud between two guys that did. The
Yeah.
thing is, they did a lot for science as well. A lot for our understanding
Probably
of
did.
paleontology, just through sheer hatred of one
Yeah.
another.
It's like a mini arms race almost.
It's like motivation,
A
isn't
bone,
it?
a bone race.
Yeah, well, it's also
It's like the
lots of
space
different
race,
bones.
isn't
Yeah,
It's like the space race, but for bones.
but for bones.
Yeah. Can you think of a?
And there's more than one. It's like if there's more than one space, you're trying to go to all the space. Every space.
Yeah. I mean, the space race was just trying to get space, then the moon,
just
And then
moon,
there's just
wasn't it?
one space.
Yeah.
And then the moon and
and then
It's just
I
one
guess
space.
Mars.
But
Yeah,
he's
It's
not
all
gonna
just
do
one
that.
space.
There's just one space.
Just one
Yeah.
space. Yeah. So,
Wow.
around the 1880s, this is where it gets absolutely ridiculous. Marsh was the head of the U.S. Geological Survey. So, effectively, he was able to kind of pass through laws. So he passed a law which meant that fossils that were found with government money had to were automatically the property of the Smithsonian, which is a museum in America.
Yeah.
So effectively, what that means that if you used government funding to find these fossils, they're not your fossils. They actually belong to the Smithsonian. And the idea behind that was that he was the head of the U.S. Geological Survey, so he could say that, and that would mean that Cope would get all of his bones taken away and given to the Smithsonian. And he just wanted to make sure that his rival had all of his stuff stolen from him.
Taken, yeah.
Kind of backfired, though.
This is making me sad.
Well, this is the issue. It kind of backfired because Cope was a meticulous record keeper. He didn't actually lose. He didn't really lose many of his bones at all. He kept most of them because he could prove that he invested his own money into excavating them. So they couldn't take his bones. However, Cope was really annoyed at this and decided to get one up on Marsh by releasing a bunch of papers that he had. The papers were all of Marsh's misdeeds and illegal doings and skeevy dealings from the past decade or so that he had used to get bones. So Cope had all these receipts on Marsh of all of the awful things that he'd done, and he just decided, okay, well, I'm going to publish them now.
You're going to take my bones? Yeah.
Led to Marsh having to resign from his job
Yeah.
because
Yeah, you're gonna say.
he'd broken the law or bent it
He
a little
passes
bit.
laws and he's broken them.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm on Cope's side.
probably should not have passed that law though, because Guess whose bones were found with government funding?
Oh, his own.
Yeah, his
Oh,
own.
Yeah, I was gonna
So-
say like
his own bones would have been taken.
Yeah,
surely.
so he had to give all of his bones away to the
What if the
Smithsonian.
law was all bones taken except Marsh?
But I'm sure that it was probably some kind of law that was
Yeah.
like, well, all the bones need to be taken except for the head of the U.S. Geological Surveys.
Yeah, something like that.
I'll never not be the head of the U.S. Geological Survey, he thought.
ah.
Yeah. So he
What a fool!
had to turn over all his fossils to the Smithsonian.
Well, Marsh has done so much wrong.
Cope
He started this, didn't he?
Sad.
I mean, Cope is keeping dedicated notes.
Yeah,
and
just in
records.
case he was attacked, which he was. It's self-defense.
No, they were.
I
They
mean,
were.
they're both petty, but
No,
I
they're-
They're both petty, but I'm on Cope's
Marsh just
side.
seems to go the
They're
extra.
Yeah,
both-
Marsh is too
Take it-
much.
I mean,
takes
the
too
thing is,
far.
Marsh had a lot of. The thing is, they didn't get on as people because
Yeah.
apparently Marsh was quite down to earth and practical, and he thought that he's more of a thinker and a quiet person, whereas he thought that Cope was aristocratic and just fanciful. Basically, Cope thought that Marsh wasn't a gentleman, and Marsh thought that Cope just wasn't a professional.
Right. Okay.
So honestly, every single thing I've read about them is that they're like polar opposites. One of them's like extroverted, one of them's introverted. They do not get on at all.
Innit?
They hate each other. Yeah. So over the years, as I said, Cope kept not only did he keep an elaborate journal of
Yeah.
Marsh's misdeeds and wrongdoings, he kept a journal of his mistakes.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so he started publishing them in the newspaper. This was originally part of him ousting Marsh, but he
Yeah.
continued to publish them. Now, obviously, Marsh did not take that lying down, and there was a
No.
lot of back and forth between them in the newspapers. Bear in mind, at this point in the 1860s, instead of tweeting or posting Instagram stories, if you didn't
just a
like
new
someone,
newspaper every
you would
day.
you would literally write an article and submit it to the newspaper, and that would be posted for everyone to read.
The newspaper just approved this.
Yeah.
Think about how many. Okay, right. Think about how many retweets that Rebecca
Yeah.
Vardy thing got.
Who's that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The private Instagram story.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is 100% the 1800s equivalent
That was
of it's Rebecca
scandalous.
Vardy's account. Honestly, these
The
guys.
equivalent of.
I mean, this is exactly as big. These guys hate each other. It was
Yeah.
a massive news thing. I mean, honestly, the newspapers loved it because they were like, people are going to be buying this.
Drama.
Yeah, the issue was that paleontologists were not the biggest fans because they knew about obviously this whole
Yeah.
feud because they're paleontologists. It's in
Yeah.
their field,
Yeah.
and they didn't really like it being spread to everyone in the
Yeah,
public.
they're like,
No.
just makes us look bad.
It made them all look bad.
Makes the fields look really
And also,
unprofessional.
a lot of them had already decided which side they were on. You know, it's like team Jacob or team Edward, except it's
Team Cope or Team Marsh.
exactly.
What are
Cope
you?
is Edward,
Hashtag.
isn't it? I'm Team Edward.
I feel like I'm team Marsh.
Cope is Edward.
Cope is Edward.
You Team Marsh.
Why are you
Yeah, a
Team
little
Marsh?
bit.
Why?
Well, he knows the rest of the story. So
Well, mostly because Cope is just he's insufferable.
I think Marsh is insufferable.
I've never met either
Cope
of them.
Cope kept a ridiculous number of records on a guy that he just didn't like.
Yeah,
just
Ah.
no.
He
just-
clearly had to if this guy tries to take his fucking bones.
They were both doing the same thing to each other. They were blowing up bones.
I thought that was an apparent thing that wasn't. Didn't
No,
actually
they were
happen.
destroying. They were destroying fossil records. They weren't blowing up the sites,
Right.
but they were destroying the fossil records.
Marsh
So
did start it though.
No, he started stealing it.
There you go.
Yeah, but look, think about it. Cope was 18 years old. He
go.
discovered his own dinosaur.
Yeah, and then a guy
He's a-
9 years older than him's like, "Fuck you."
That
yeah,
makes me feel
it's
insecure.
smarming.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
literally he's just insecure about being old and like bad at his job.
Okay, so in 1890, the New York Herald brought the conflict really public under the headline "Scientists
New York
wage
Herald.
bitter scientists wage bitter warfare," and this was really the thing that made other paleontologists just feel like their entire profession had been publicly just dragged through the mud.
This is like the trans community.
It's
It's really a lot.
I mean, it's almost worse because it's so
Almost worse.
no in terms of it's way more mainstream.
Is it?
Yeah, this
I
was
guess it's a newspaper, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
all they had.
yeah. They didn't. I mean, they didn't have
Oh,
TV or
that
anything.
was a big boy like
Yeah.
news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
This
what
is
I
like
mean.
it being on Sky News all the time. Like
It's just like a
or BBC
little
News.
Twitter thread going on
Yeah.
It's like a
Like
Twitter
Good Morning
feed being on,
Britain.
yeah, like BBC News.
BBC
Like,
News, yeah, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that wasn't very good. People were quite mad at that. So according to the author, Elizabeth Noble Shore, the scientific community was galvanized. Most scientists of the day recoiled to find that Cope's feud with Marsh had become front-page news. Those closest to the scientific fields under discussion, geology and vertebrate paleontology, certainly winced, particularly as they found themselves quoted, mentioned, or misspelled. The feud was not news to them, for it had lurked at their scientific meetings for 2 decades. Most of them had already taken sides. So effectively what this quote means is that this all comes to the forefront. Suddenly, front page news, a bunch of scientists are being quoted in the newspaper as saying no, I don't like Cope, or yeah, Marsh is really awful. And they're just like, oh no, I don't want this being public. And also it makes us all look terrible. And it's this thing where everyone knew about it because at every kind of convention, or if you're reading all of the convention, if every kind of gathering, or if you're reading articles, you know that they hate each other.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, do I pick a side or I just stay, do I steer clear of
After
this?
20 years, surely you must have made your own decision.
Yeah, I mean, after 20 years, but at 20 years, you're like, surely they're going to stop, man.
I was just thinking it was weird that this was so well documented. I was like, what a weird thing. Like, these two people had a feud and people decided to write about it.
Yeah, but
it was in the newspapers.
Yeah, but bear in mind that one of them was a meticulous note taker.
Yeah.
Like, he wrote down everything. And the thing is, this was back when you literally had to do it all by hand. So he would write down every single penny he spent on every single fossil dig. So in the newspaper articles, Cope attacked Marsh for plagiarism and mismanaging his money, and also attacked one of Marsh's associates for misclassifying rocks, effectively, and misspending of government funds. And Marsh published his own side of the story, which filed their own charges against Cope. And basically, the articles that were written about them both were really poorly researched and just written not very good. Yeah.
Not very well.
Shut up.
Not very good.
Not very good.
The articles that were written about them by the third party were just not very well researched and not very good. So there's this piece that came out about Cope that he really didn't like, wherein apparently he was going to be asked to step down from his position at the University of Pennsylvania unless he proved his charges against Marsh.
What?
Yeah. So apparently,
how do you prove? But
he's got all those notes.
Yeah, but he could say anything he wants in a notebook.
Oh yeah, true.
No, exactly. So after a little while, this all kind of faded from the public consciousness. So not much had changed between them. They still hate each other. People just kind of gotten bored, I guess.
Yeah.
And it kind of fizzled out. I mean, Cope died in 1897 and Marsh died 2 years later. So not much happened in the later years. But I will tell you a little bit about Cope and his final years, because no one's really sure about what actually killed Cope.
I think Marsh did it.
He didn't.
Fuck Marsh.
So some people some people said that apparently he died of syphilis, but there's no evidence to support that, so I don't know where that's come
You
from.
can die of syphilis.
Yeah, syphilis kills you. That's the last stage of syphilis.
I reckon Marsh was really happy with the fact that he was born before and lived after Cope.
Oh my god, he would have been so.
He would have been
exactly
so
the kind of petty
pleased
guy
with
that just, like,
himself.
I hate this guy.
go to the funeral and just be like yeah.
You think he's
Get in the
invited to
ground.
the fucking
I
funeral?
think he showed up to the funeral.
It's like the Westboro Baptist Church.
I don't
like
think it
picketing.
happened. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical.
Oh, I thought you said he did.
No, I said I think he would have.
Ah.
Yes.
Popped a bottle of bubbly.
Yeah, so he had chronic infections in his bladder, Cope did, before he died.
Yeah.
And also issues with his prostate and neighboring tissues, and he mostly tried to medicate himself. So a lot of his friends tried to tell him to get surgery, which would apparently relieve pain and stop it from being quite as bad on him.
Yeah.
Useful, yeah.
Yeah, but though it was obviously the late 1800s, it was just before 1900, and those kind of operations were they were not good yet. They were just starting out, and apparently there was a chance of him being rendered impotent, and that's what put Cope off.
Impotent. I know what it means.
Do you want to say what it means?
No, I think you should.
Jamp, do you want to say what it means?
It's infertile for men.
Okay. I thought so, but then I was like, am I getting that mixed up with yeah, no, go on.
Yeah, so he didn't want to be impotent, despite the fact that he was quite old.
I was going to say he was old at this point.
I mean, dude, come on, really?
Well, I might want a kid one day.
Just sitting there, like,
I
beating one
haven't
out
come in 30
constantly.
years.
It's just dust at that point. So all he did was take belladonna.
Sorry?
It's a plant.
It is a plant. You should know what it is. You did an
Yes,
episode.
I did an episode on it.
Yeah.
It makes you hallucinate.
And also,
he just took hallucinogenics.
not just that,
Oh,
it's
I didn't.
poisonous.
Oh yeah. That's what the whole
That was what the whole
the
episode
whole
was.
episode was about, it being poisonous. But it makes you hallucinate.
He took poisonous
I found that-
hallucinogenics.
I found that more interesting.
Well,
It's literally about poisonous plants was my episode.
did he know it was poisonous?
Yeah, so everyone knew it was poisonous at that point. They took it. So,
Except me, despite doing a whole episode on it.
so he kept on trying to write up scientific papers, but people think that the poisonous plant that he was eating, belladonna, contributed to his death. So in small amounts, people used it as a medicine. I mean, lots of things that are toxic can be used as medicines, but probably don't use belladonna.
No, don't take poison.
Because you're taking lots of little bits of poison.
What, a little bit?
Well, if you take a little bit every day.
As a treat?
As a treat.
If the treat is death...
It was a treat, to be fair.
Right, I'm going to move on. So he died, as I said, 1897 on the 12th of April. Now, before he died, he really hated Marsh, and he wanted to set out
I bet he did.
a final challenge for him. So he said, I direct that after my funeral, my body shall be presented to the
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropometric Society, and that an autopsy shall be performed on it. And Cope wrote in his will, stipulating that my brain shall be preserved in their collection of brains for future study. However, what he specifically wanted was for his brain to be weighed and measured, because at this point in time, people thought that the weight and size of a brain indicated intelligence. So he said,
I wouldn't be
right, when I die, I'm getting my brain taken out, and it's going to be weighed and measured, and when you die, you do the same, and if mine is bigger than yours, then I was
win.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Except neither of them know.
well, yeah, no.
Because they're dead.
Exactly. That's the worst part about it. That he's like, yeah, I'm going to die, but I'm
I'm
still
gonna show
gonna...
you my brain's heavier than yours.
You're both dead. Why do you care so much? Imagine hating someone so much that you decide to have your brain taken out of your dead body just to one up him after you're dead.
Did
You
the
don't
other
even
guy
know
do
if-
it?
No.
Oh, they didn't do it.
That'd be quite a good,
Yeah, but that's the best way to win, isn't it? How you cut out your brain, and that looks dumb on you, doesn't it?
Well, not if he's done it himself.
What?
Oh, I thought you were
What
talking
if he
about
had-
if the other guy does it. It's dumb on him.
Would have got him back if he had a really light brain.
It just seems like a pointless thing to do. So, yeah. Yeah. So he got himself. He basically got himself dissected. Well, not dissected. Well, yeah, dissected. That's what an autopsy is.
Yeah.
He got himself dissected and his brain taken out, and apparently it's still in the museum. But apparently it could just be a replica. But supposedly it's a real thing.
Let's go see it.
Which is weird. How do you lose a brain?
Well, he died.
Well, someone nicked it.
No, I mean if you're a museum
Pinched.
or a
Snatch.
Oh, it was in the museum.
There are many ways you could lose a brain.
I'm just thinking maybe it got a bit gammy.
Yeah.
Got a bit
it's
mouldy.
being preserved and it's like a pickled brain.
Well,
It could be a hole in the preserve thing.
Okay.
Someone could have stole it.
I'm
Could have
gonna
lost it.
stop asking you questions.
maybe.
You did ask.
I did.
Maybe.
Not-
In
no,
his final 2 years, Marsh took over
Right.
and was like,
Okay. To be fair, you guys are right. It is my fault for asking the questions. I should not do that. I
We've
shouldn't
only
have,
got a quiz to go. It's
shouldn't
fine.
have thought that much of you. Yeah. So as I said, Marsh never took the bait. He was interred in a cemetery not far from the museum that he'd spent his whole life working on.
Is this the museum?
No,
Okay, it's a different museum.
the museum was Dr. Button, who was talking about dinosaurs. That was
Okay.
a long time.
That
ago.
was
Yeah.
about an hour ago.
That was
This is how
literally
my
the start
brain
of the
doesn't
episode.
work. I'm seeing it.
No, this is the Peabody Museum we're talking about.
I don't take in information correctly.
You don't. You really don't. This next segment is really going to screw you.
I'm liking my chances for this quiz.
Honestly, you seem like you're going to win every time, and then you don't.
And then I fall at the last hurdle.
So, who won the Bone Wars?
Cope.
Cope, obviously.
Wow.
Well,
What? Because he
He
died.
died
I
first.
think he died first.
Okay, here's the thing about wars.
Maybe Marsh-
Dying first in a war usually means that you lose it. Because
yeah.
the goal of a war is to be not dead.
Yeah, but I don't like Marsh, so
Right. But, okay.
okay.
Right. So judging by numbers, Marsh actually won the Bone Wars.
Oh, he's older as well. He lives longer.
He lived
he's
11 years older.
Jesus.
That's good. That's some
That
good
was
quick
quick-
math. Been
quick
working
math.
that.
Plus
Been
two.
working that out since I
Yeah,
first.
21.
So Cope discovered a total of 56 new dinosaur species, and Marsh discovered 80, which is bigger than 56.
Oh, that's a bigger number.
Yeah, it is a big number. So in the end of the the last stage of the Bone Wars, Marsh just had more men and more money at his disposal than Cope. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention this. By the end, they both had a lot of the time, like basically run out of money and run out of fossils because they had spent their entire fortunes and time just one-upping each
So
other.
they were poor and bitter.
Imagine spending all your
dead.
money on bones.
Cope got really ill and had to. I'm pretty sure it's Cope. He got really ill and had to sell quite a lot of his collection and his house just to, provide himself treatment.
For a little bit before dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun.
Serves them both right, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. So the reason that Cope has fewer finds than Marsh in terms of dinosaurs is that Cope apparently had a broader scope of paleontological. He liked more old things.
Yeah, good. Good on
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so-
support that.
So he went for he went for a lot of different things, whereas Marsh basically went exclusively for reptiles and mammals that were fossilized.
Right.
And actually, you'll probably know some of the discoveries that they made. So I'll give you a few of them now. There's Triceratops, Allosaurus, Diplodocus, Stegosaurus,
Wait, who discovered these?
just between the two of them.
Ah, okay.
I know all of these ones.
Camarasaurus
Not that.
and Soleophysis. Don't know why I kept that one in.
Syphilis.
Syphilis. And syphilis.
And
That really
fossilized
fucked
syphilis.
Cope over.
So basically, when they started, paleontology was not really a big thing. It wasn't very well defined or well understood. But through their bitter rivalry, they pushed it forwards very quickly.
I'm okay with that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. Maybe. It was all manufactured. It was a manufactured feud in order to boost the
I
paleontology.
really don't think it was, because what was boosted was them trying to outdo each other. In fact, so when they
True.
started, there were only 9 named species of dinosaur in North America, and as I said, by the end, they discovered 56 and 80.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that is the end of the Bone Wars. So you know what that means? It's time for it now. It's the
quick
quick fire quiz. I will start off by asking Noah a question. Noah, if you get this wrong, Jap can go in for the steal.
Ooh, okay.
What sets dinosaurs apart from other reptiles?
They have upstanding legs. They got legs.
Ding, ding, ding!
Upright,
That's
upright.
correct. That is, upstanding. I'll take it.
Thank
Most
you.
legs are
They're
upstanding.
upstanding citizens.
What is the most common way by which fossils are made?
Petrification.
Ding, ding, ding! That is correct!
Yeah!
Do you know what? This is going to be... Okay, name 3 dinosaurs discovered by Marsh and Cope.
Oh, Allosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Diplodocus.
Well, Tyrannosaurus Rex is wrong.
Why?
Because I said
It
that.
is wrong.
I said that to be funny.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, well, that's not fair. Oh, fine. Let me do the pterodactus. Pterodactyl.
That's also wrong. And it's
Well-
also not a dinosaur. What is the name of the plant that Cope took before his death?
Oh, the freaking belladonna.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Ding,
that's
ding,
it.
ding.
He did a whole ass
I did an
episode
episode
on
on
that.
it.
He also forgot it was
I
poisonous.
forgot it was poisonous.
What was Marsh's first name?
Oh.
Othniel.
Ding, ding, ding! That is
Yeah.
correct. Okay, so that is 2,
2-2.
2.
2.
So you need to get this
This
right.
is the last question.
This is the last question.
We can keep playing.
I don't want you to keep playing.
No.
Okay, so
The
for
music does run out eventually.
what was the name of Marsh's uncle?
No idea. Rich uncle.
Randy.
It was Peabody. Come
Oh,
on, George Peabody.
Museum.
The museum, George Peabody.
I have a
So-
chance.
Okay, Noah. Last question. Hopefully. Now, in 1868, Cope described the aquatic reptile Elasmosaurus. what was wrong with his description of it?
Oh, the head was on the wrong end. They put
Ding,
it on
ding,
the
ding,
tail.
ding, 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 ding. That is correct. Noah, you win, champ.
Well, no, because he's not had his last question.
Yeah, but it's just
But
sudden
that's
death.
not fair.
It's sudden death.
No, but that's not fair if I go first.
It's sudden death. I make up the rules. You win.
You're
I've
not
always
fair.
wondered, he's making a case of it. That's nice.
I just don't think that's fair.
So thank you all for listening to the show. This week's episode, as I said, was chosen by our lovely patrons over at Patreon. You can become a patron at patreon.com/SciGuys. This is the part of the show where we read out your names and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Alice Blecker, Loyal Leon.
Thank you to Anne, who was my mother.
Thank you,
Mum.
Jasmine.
Thank you, Brea Winner.
Thank you, Ella Hellasy.
Thank you, Hiccup.
Thank you. Stop it. Thank you, Landy Manderson.
Thank you, Luke Cutforth, who couldn't be here today, but is still a patron for some reason.
Oh, we love him. Oh, thank you, Me Standin.
Thank you, Natalia. Me standing.
Me
Thank
standing.
you, new patron, Omar Garcia.
Wow.
Oh, thank you, Paul Olson.
And thank you, Tobias Schaffel.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you all.
your lovely
Aw.
patronage. And as I said, if you want to be a patron, you can find
I love
us
seeing
at-
new names.
It's just nice seeing new names, isn't it? Get a little email. It's lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you again. As I said, you can find us at patreon.com/SciGuys. Thank you for watching. You'll find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday. And why not leave us a nice wee comment? You can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys. Or you can send us an email at sciguyspod@gmail.com. I'm not Corey everywhere.
I'm champion everywhere.
I've been sat down for too long.
He's NOAHFINCE. Thank you and goodbye.